Hey guys, it's another mod weekend, and we're actually doing the wiring for all the stuff on the roof. And I'm going to point out those lights in a little bit. But the first thing I wanted to do, because I couldn't find any videos that had kind of this stuff of what's going on behind the dash. So let me show you kind of what's going on here. So come on in. So first off, I removed this panel here, which is your kind of headlights and accessory lights, and then a couple extra accessory ports here. I thought I'd be able to mount the switch for the Baja Designs toggle switch here. Unfortunately, there's some electronics back there, so you don't want to mess with that. So I'm actually going to put that in here, and I actually found that having a double switch in here is going to be really cool, so I'll show you that here in a second as well. One thing to know if you're removing this panel is if you try to do it like a gorilla like me, you're going to break some stuff, which I would highly encourage you not to do. And once again, I didn't know what was going on back here, so I just kind of made it happen. So let me show you what you do need to remove. So if you come on in here. So first off, there's 3 screws on the bottom that you need to remove. There's a screw here, and a screw here. They're the star style screws. The screws I didn't realize I had to remove is this screw here and this screw here. And the reason I didn't realize that is there's a panel that looks like this that goes right there. So make sure you pop this panel out. It's just held in by fasteners that you don't have to use screws or anything for. As you can see, I actually broke that, so I did a little epoxy fix on that. But the reality is I would suggest you don't break that. And then luckily for me, these white things did pull out when I yanked it, and I was able to reinstall them so I can screw them back in. But so it's basically 5 screws to remove this whole panel. Just make sure you do it in that order. The next thing I want to point out is another mistake I made was when I was wiring these toggle switches. So I did have to switch out the 3-way toggle switch on the Baja Design LP6 headlights, or the driver's lights, and I'll show you those here on the front real quick if you guys come with me. Come check this out. LP6 is right here, and LP9s would be exactly the same. The one thing with LP6s and LP9s is they have high and low beams, so I want to still have control of that. They also have this crazy thing that's behind that kind of lights up as kind of a daylight running light, and I'm going to show you how I wired that as well. So come back over here. So I got caught up all in the running the wires, and when I originally ran these wires, I wasn't really thinking really well, and I ran them under here when I had everything kind of hanging like this. And then I realized I wasn't going to be able to run them back up through this hole, and I tried to unscrew all this and feed it up, but then you have to remove like all of this because this vent here kind of is connected. So what I did was I kind of broke this, and then I had to fix this as well. So a lot of fixing. The good news is you can fix it with some great epoxy available at your big box store. So that's what I did. But let's talk about these switches. So I have 2 switches here. The first switch, this one here, is actually for those kind of lights that go behind the scenes. They're behind that, they light up behind the thing, and they're not really providing any value other than they just look cool. It says in the directions that they need to be grounded, I believe, but I hooked them up to positive. That's where they actually need to be. I tried to ground them, they didn't work. So you want to go with a positive feed on that. So basically, from this control, I'm going to be able to turn those on and off just to make them work. This next switch here is a 3-way switch. I had to go with something smaller than what they had available with the Baja Designs, because the Baja Design switches will not fit into these little modules. And I'll show you a video in the future. If anybody wants it, you'll have to ask me for it. I'll show you how to do it. But basically, I use a Dremel tool to kind of carve out the back side of this the switch placement. So the way I have this wired, just so everybody knows, is there are 2 red wires that are coming off of that Baja Designs. The one that is unswitched, you want to hook up to this yellow wire here in this switch, because this is a constant on, and I'm basically just using that to turn basically on and off the Baja Designs piece. The one that is switched up and connected to a white wire, which I'll have another video to kind of break this down for you in more detail. You want to hook up so that it connects up with the one side of the high beams or the low beams. Now, the way this works, this Baja design, is the low beams are just running directly off of the switch. There's no relay that is doing it. So you're not going to have it's truly just the switch it's turning that on and off. The other one is actually going through a relay to kind of flick it on, because it's got a lot more power, the high beam. So just so you know. So I basically have this set up. I'm going to put it in a way so that up is obviously high beams, down is low beams, and really this is just going to be a control switch. This is not going to turn it on and off. Originally my plan was to actually hook this up directly to the battery and then turn on high beams or turn on low beams. I have the 6-shooter trigger system, and I'm actually going to hook this whole thing up, this whole rig right here, up to the 6-shooter. So I'm going to push one button on the 6-shooter, and if I have these little driving backlights on, they'll just come on. If I have the high beams on, that will automatically come on as well. I can kind of pick and choose what I want to do with this wire configuration. And I didn't see anybody else post this. If someone else did, good for you as well. You're a lot. I wish I would have found your post. So that's what's going on with my Baja front lights. It's a lot going on. So basically all of these wires then run behind the dash. They go through here, come across, and as you can see, there's a wire that I have zip tied to there, and then it goes under the seat. And I'm going to show you on the other side what's going on the other side of the seat over there. Let me show you real quick. So this wire is that Baja Designs wire, comes across, and then it goes right under the passenger seat. And there's tons of space back there to do a ton of stuff on there. The other thing that I ran at the same time is this wires here. So these, I have 3 wires. The 3 wires is the green wire, actually runs through that taped Baja design piece that I was just showing you there, and goes under the passenger seat. That connects up to the 6-shooter trigger yellow wire. That yellow wire is the wire that says, hey, I'm on or I'm off as a 6-shooter. I wanted to have the flexibility of using it when the van was turned off, to look at my lights around the vehicle, as well as having it run on the ignition. So what I did here was I ran the green wire, which is the center wire, which is going to say, hey, switch white or black, send this signal to the green wire. That green wire goes to the 6-shooter and tells it if it's on or off. And I have 2 choices to make with that, or actually 3 to be honest with you. Switch 1 would be off, meaning no matter what signal I'm sending to this thing, nothing's going to happen. Number 2, if I go up, that'll be driven based on basically the battery. So a direct link to the battery. I'm going to show you how I hook that up. And then if I go down, that's going to be the ignition. So only when the ignition on is when the 6-shooter will work. And I'll probably leave it in that configuration almost 90% of the time. If we're at a campsite and all of a sudden I hear something outside, I want to turn the lights on, I can just flip this up, click my 6-shooter button, and see all the lights with the van off. So that's going to give me that flexibility across the spectrum there. And you can see I'm going to put it in this open space here on the piece there. So the green wire, as you know, I ran under the passenger seat. The black and white wires, which I'm just using, actually, to be honest with you, I went to a big box store and I bought an extension cord that was 16 amps, and I'm running that 16 gauge extension cord, black one, because I thought they were cooler. I'm running that basically from there all the way under, and once again, just to give you guys a viewing, I'm going out and under, coming down this passage, and then instead of going under the passenger seat, I'm coming under the driver's seat, and then I'm coming into here. Now I did, to be honest with you, I did need to use a fish, and what I did was I aimed for where I could see light, which I don't know if you can see in there, but there's a place where you can see light. I aimed the fish for where the light was. It popped out the other side where I needed it. And then what I used is something I learned from my Airstream friends, which is using these little fuse block connections. Now, this whole fuse block here is all constant on, directly hooked up to the battery. And this one is ignition. So these only come on when the ignition comes on. So what I did was I used these little fuse connections, and they're really easy to use. You just kind of pop them. So, and then you push it right in. Now, it also enables me to put a fuse on that. So I put a little 15 amp fuse on it. And that one, as you can see, runs to the black, which is constant on. And then this is the other side, which is the white, which is on only when the ignition's on. So that's what you're seeing there. This then, and I'll set that back up. One other thing is I had to run one additional wire from the battery, which is cool because they do give you a connector directly off the battery right here. You can see that. It is an M7 or an M8. I can't remember. They didn't give me the bolt. I'm guessing yours won't have it either. So if you have to go to a big box store and buy that, it's an M7 or M8. I can't remember. It's one of those two. Buy both. They're like 20 cents each. I ran this line, which is actually some 6 gauge wire. I ran from here to under the seat, and I'll show you where I connected that back up as well. So come on with me over here to the other side. So under the seat, there's a little plastic thing that pops right off, and you have enormous amount of storage under there. I wanted to have access to my 6 trigger. That was pretty easy, so that if I needed to change out any of the fuses, I could easily do that. And if I need to manually turn stuff on, I can easily do that from here as well by just popping this. This is the cord from the Baja Designs LP6s. I'm going to hook those up to one of the 30 amp, only because one of those, as we shared before, one of the switches is actually a higher powered switch. So it says you want to put a 25 amp switch on there. I'm going to go hook up to the 30 just so we're covered and we don't have to worry about it. So that's going to hook directly up to basically one of these with their wire connector. Then the next thing is these other ones will all run basically, and if you come over here, they're going to go under, come up this panel right here, and come up the side panel. Let me show you this if you come into the van. So basically I've removed this side panel, which once again, I didn't know how to remove this. There are 5 bolts, I believe it is. So you basically have the seat bolt, pretty easy to remove. You just take that right out of there. You take out, there's a bolt down here for a D-ring. You have to remove that. Then there's 2 bolts behind a pop-off piece on the grab handle. So there's like a little piece. You take one of those little blue things that you buy from Harbor Freight or wherever else. I have one over there, but basically just take one of those plastic tools, pop that piece off. There's 2 screws there. So that's 4. And then the 5th one is the coat hanger, which looks just like this one. So if you were to look at that one, basically all you have to do is just pull this little plastic piece off, and you'll see there's a star bolt there as well. You take those 5 bolts off, and then it's just a little bit of muscle and pop the actual whole side pillar off. That gives you access to pull wires up this whole side panel. These wires are all going to be for the roof lights, and they're going to come up through here. I'll feed them through here. And then I got a great tip from one of the STO people that basically is, shows you how to just pull the smoke detector off. And you will need, I used an oscillating saw to kind of cut some of this away, because there's a piece of wood. I'd say it's 3/8 inch wood, plywood. And then there was a little overhang of another piece. I'm not really sure what it is, but I also cut that back. So I basically have a, what I would call probably 2 inches or 1.5 inches by like 4 inches hole here, where you can see I can stick my hand up in here. It's going to give me access to where I'm going to put a hole on the roof, and I'm going to use a really cool design for that. So in the next video, we're going to show you what happens up on the roof, and I'm going to show you some information I got about the actual lights, which I was asking a lot of questions in the group, and I don't know if I got bad information or good information, or if it just helped me find out a new way of doing it. So talk to you guys soon. I hope you guys have a great day.